Hello, and welcome to Breast Cancer Conversations, a podcast brought to you by survivingbreastcancer.org. I am Laura Carfang, breast cancer survivor and founder of survivingbreastcancer.org, a nonprofit organization providing community, education, and resources to empower those diagnosed with breast cancer and their caregivers from day one and beyond. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Breast Cancer Conversations. I am so glad that you guys are here and joining us. It is my pleasure to be accompanied with Dr. Amy Morris, and she has an incredible story to share with all of us today because I know we have so many questions about how to navigate kind of health and wellness after being diagnosed with cancer. As it's, going through chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. If you're like me, I'm a breast cancer survivor and thriver and was on hormonal therapies, and there was a bunch of weight gain after that. And just, being thrown into menopause, like, oh my gosh, the list goes on. So Dr. Morris, I am so excited that you're on today's show and can really dive into the nuts and bolts of what we need to know about our bodies. And you bring such a unique perspective because not only are you in the oncology field, but you too have been diagnosed and surviving through a cancer diagnosis. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really looking forward to diving into a lot of those topics because you've already opened the can on a lot of things I know as cancer survivors we navigate. So yeah, I'm an ovarian cancer survivor myself. I was diagnosed in 2016. But before that, I was actually already working in cancer care. So I'm a cancer researcher. I started my career as a pharmacist. So I did my undergraduate degree in pharmacy. Then I went on to do additional training to support patients in acute care. Then I started working in cancer care as a pharmacist. And at that point, I was like, gosh, I just felt like I could give more. I really loved and still do love helping people with cancer. They are the best people to help. It's also like the most meaningful work. I always say I have the best job in the world. And I mean it, like, come argue with me because I have the best job in the world. But I just felt like I could give more. I really loved understanding the medications. They were always evolving as they should with cancer, but there was also some huge downsides. There's some big side effects, and life after cancer was kind of being pushed aside. It was the quality of life piece for breast cancer survivors. I could see it every day and they just weren't being supported. So at that point, I did my doctorate degree and I focused on helping women stay on their treatments. And so for me, that was like, look, these side effects are unacceptable. We need to do something about it. And it's not enough to just say this is your new normal. So after I finished my doctorate degree, that's when I myself was diagnosed with cancer. And then although I had at this point an extensive university training in cancer care, I then got to have the practical experience, which is what has made me 1,000 times better as a clinician, having gone through it myself now.
And what type of treatments did you undergo with ovarian cancer?
Yeah, so surgery. Extensive surgery to remove the tumor. I have an incision that goes across the length of my abdomen, then chemotherapy. And then after that is monitoring. That's what it was for me. And I was diagnosed 8 years ago. So treatments shifted a bit since then, but that was my path.
Treatment has come so far. Even the treatment regimen that I was on when I was diagnosed is no longer the standard practice.
I love it. I love it, right? When people say to me, tell me what treatment you had. And I'm like, you know what? It was the best. It was cutting edge. Like, this is why I love this field. It's like, as an intellectual, as a researcher, you would never get bored. Like every Friday, I spend Friday digging into research. And I love it. That's the best way to spend a Friday for me.
Yeah, I have my doctorate as well. It's in the field of education. And so I'm totally with you on totally nerding out and the peer-reviewed articles and just digging into the data. And it was after my whole education and career, similarly, I got diagnosed with cancer and I was like, how can I pivot and take this background in education and now provide education to the cancer community?
Laura, you really remind me of, there's a Walt Disney quote where he says, I would rather entertain and hope you learn something than educate and hope you were entertained. And I know, and I just always remember that quote because 'cause I'm like, "Yeah." Because like, you coming with a doctorate in education and then knowing how to educate people, but now like a podcast, which also you need to, like, entertain, right? And so, I mean, it's like the perfect marriage.
Ugh. Yeah, and absolutely, like, understanding people's different learning styles, which is why we have, like, the video, the audio, the blog, like, all of those things. So,
Yes, love it.
absolutely. So tell me more specifically, what is your research focused on? Is it quality of life?
Yeah, so a quality of life, that would be a really simple way to put it. So, really, what I'm looking at is using different strategies to help women stay on their treatments. And because we know that these treatments are flawed, right? Like, we get it, we know that they're flawed. And so, what I focus on is helping to eliminate the side effects. So, I look at like why women stop, right? For example, we know that only 50% of women will actually get to the 5-year mark on tamoxifen. So if you're on tamoxifen, 50% of people will stop taking it, right? So why do they stop taking it, right? What are the side effects and what can we do to get rid of those side effects? So lots of time the answer is nutrition, it's movement, it's mindset, it's supplements, it's lifestyle. So what can I do to support someone if they want to be on this medication, to take it for the duration and feel well?
We hear that so often. I was on, and again, we're dating ourselves because I know things have changed, but my regimen was on like a 10-year plan. So I know a lot of times with these hormonal therapies, you want to get to the 5-year mark, but given the size of my tumor, the extent that it traveled to the lymph nodes, my age when I was diagnosed in my 30s, all of these things kind of made me primed to have 10 years of treatment on hormonal therapies. And that's when I like literally almost fell off the examining table in the office with my doctor because, I could do like 6 months of chemo. I could do like 4 weeks recovery post surgery. I could do 30 days of radiation, but 10 years
Yeah.
taking a pill every single day, which
Yep.
was the reminder that I had cancer,
Yep.
was, a mind shift of,
Yeah.
the mental side, not just the physical side.
It changes it from a sprint to a marathon. Yeah, and, like, mentally, that's rough, and it's one thing to just take, like, a nothing pill every day, like, a pill that you don't even really feel any different and just be reminded of cancer, and it's another thing to take a pill that causes you side effects. Then every day, you're like, "Is this even worth it for me?"
The joint pain we talked about, like, I would wake up and I'd feel like the Tin Man from, like, The Wizard of Oz. It would take me, like, a good 10 minutes to, like, oil up and lubricate just to, like, go down the stairs. The weight gain was real because you were thrown into medical menopause is what I call it. I don't even know if that's the technical term, but just thrown into menopause. And then I think also, like, the hot flashes, the mood swings, like, it was awful, and I really wanted to, like, have this tattooed on my forehead of, like, "I'm not really like this, you guys." Like, this is the medicine.
The first thing you mentioned was the weight gain. So how much weight did you end up gaining?
Oh gosh, probably I've lost 30 pounds since. So I wanna say, like, upwards of 50 pounds, because, not just with the hormonal therapies, but all of the steroids they give you to manage the chemotherapy and the effects that, if your joints hurt, you don't wanna work out, you're not feeling motivated, and it's just like this vicious downward cycle.
So this is the problem, right? For me, myself, I gained 20 pounds during my treatment. I was not intentionally put into menopause, but I would say the consequence of my treatment put me into perimenopause. Okay. So gained this weight. We know that being at an unhealthy body weight increases your risk of breast cancer recurrence. But yet you're put on a drug that causes you to gain weight. The drug's supposed to lower your risk. The weight gain increases your risk. So like this, lots of women will say to me, "Oh, I don't want to seem vain." I'm like, "This is not vanity. This is your risk of cancer recurrence. We need to get the weight off, and especially like you don't feel comfortable like that, but like let's get the weight off because that is something the power in your hands to lower your risk of recurrence right there."
Exactly. And then especially when we're thinking about like changing our physique through diet and exercise, the importance of like weight bearing exercises as well, because a lot of these drugs will cause osteopenia or osteoporosis as well. So it's like this catch-22 of like, I'm trying not to get cancer and I want to be happy that, I'm cancer free and there's no evidence of disease. But then we're on all of these drugs. And the longer that we're living, these other things start to like bubble up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's just, I mean, look, I always say to women, menopause is coming for us one way or the other, like it was going to happen regardless. It's not great to be put into medical menopause when you're 30. There's going to be consequences of that, right? It's not great to be put into medical menopause at any time, but it's definitely more severe if you're less than the age of 45. Okay. But like there's ways that we can mitigate those risks. You're going to have risks to your bones, which you mentioned, risks to your brain, like your cognitive function, cardiac function. We can do something about those risks. You don't have to feel like you're handcuffed, essentially.
What are some of the tools, or if I'm going grocery shopping, or if I'm thinking like, gosh, all of this is making me just so tired, right? Like the fatigue is real. What how do we even like figure out what to take and eat and use? I know when I was diagnosed, I feel like people came out of the woodwork of like, you need more kale. Why aren't you doing like green smoothies? Like all of these things. Everyone had an opinion. And I was like so overwhelmed that I just didn't know. So how do we like navigate like the science and evidence based information with like my best friend's grandma did this?
Yeah, right. I know. I remember that too. I think someone was like baking soda and maple syrup. And I'm a Canadian, so I'm like, "Well, that's like pancakes," Like, that is baking soda, that is maple syrup, so I'm like, "This is ridiculous." Like, these people that give you their opinions, and I like to believe, like, this is for my own peace, I like to believe it's well-intentioned, right? I really do, but it's not helpful, especially if you're like, for me, when I was diagnosed, I was already a cancer researcher. Okay. This is my entire career. But yet, like you said, your neighbor's grandma is giving you their opinion. And like this is what I do all day, every day, but still we get this advice, right? So I would think about it this way. First of all, you talked about something that I see a lot of my clients navigate is this overwhelm of information. So be strategic here. And this is not easy, but this is important. Okay. Be strategic. Do not follow everyone that you can on Instagram. Okay. Do not do this. Do not go on social media and follow 15 different cancer influencers or gurus. Okay. And as someone who's like very active on social media, that's hard for me to say, but I want you to protect your peace. Instead, pick one, maybe two people that like you deeply trust and follow them. And that's it. You leave the rest of the groups, you remove it because if you have too many voices talking at you, you can't hear your own intuition. You have to be able to hear yourself. So you might be in a phase where you need to remove yourself, and that's okay. It's for your own benefit. So that's where I would start. Now, if you're wanting to take like practical steps to know what to do to get yourself out of this hole, you kind of have to think about it like a staircase. I was just drawing. Oh my gosh, I was just like drawing this for my clients before I got on this meeting. Like, where's my Sharpie? Like, let me draw this. Okay. You have to think about it as a staircase. And you're not able to go to step one until you complete you're not able to go to step two until you complete step one. Okay. So a lot of women will come into my DMs, email me, and they'll say, "What supplement should I take?" Okay. And I'm like, well, supplements are designed to supplement your nutrition. That's literally why they're called supplements. So I can understand the appeal of going to Amazon and putting something in your cart and feeling like you've done some good here for your health. But we've got to go back to step number one because supplements are like step number 7. Okay. So got to go back to step number one. Step number one's your food. Okay. If you have exhaustion, which was my number one side effect, like I had been hit by a truck and before cancer, was so active. I was a competitive athlete. I love to run. I was so full of life. And now I was like deep into Netflix, you know? And so we have to correct your exhaustion first. The good news with exhaustion is that it's very easy. I shouldn't say easy. It's very straightforward to correct once you get on the right strategy. It takes about 21 days, so about 3 weeks to regain your energy. Okay. So just think about how fast that is. By the end of the month, you could have your energy back, right? And how you get started with that is with your food. Okay. So we first have to look at the amount you're eating. Okay. Many breast cancer survivors, when they come to me, they are not eating enough food. Even though they're gaining weight, they're not eating enough.
Case study myself, right? Like I was quote unquote dieting, trying to eat the salads, having like a smoothie for breakfast. And it didn't matter what I do. I would think about food and gain a pound a day. And like I just saw the scale keep going up and up and up, having to go grocery or actually clothes shopping to buy like, larger pants and outfits. And gosh, that really just like it was this disaster of my identity, who I am, and nothing I could do like changed.
You feel out of control. So when you're on like a hormone suppressing medication, things shift, right? I think we're all taught as women, I'm presuming we're a similar age. Like we're raised to be like, be thin, be small, eat less, like you have a salad, right? We're not, I mean, things have shifted dramatically now, I hope, for my own daughter, but we weren't taught to be strong like that. And so now when you think about eating after cancer, especially if you're on hormone suppressants, you need to think about fueling your metabolism. This isn't about less, it's about eating the right amounts of the right food to actually fuel your metabolism to burn more calories. Yeah, it's actually counterintuitive, but this is what we need to do now after cancer.
All right, what does that mean? How do we fuel our metabolism?
Yeah. So, like you said, you were eating less, you were eating salads, you were eating nothing. Okay. So, when we eat foods, it's called the the thermo effect of food. Okay. So, you actually will burn more calories based on the foods you're eating. Okay. Because different types of foods take different amounts of calories to actually digest. Right. So, like, it's just the effect of actually digesting that food. So, if you're eating lots of carbohydrates, which is naturally what you eat when you feel ill, right? Toast, crackers. They're also quick foods. You can make them quickly, right? They're convenient, but those don't take a lot of calories to digest. Protein, that takes a lot of calories to digest. So we actually have to like fuel your metabolism. And unfortunately, I think I've worked with over 500 women in the Cancer Freedom Program. I think 2 women have come to me and they were actually eating enough protein.
The question I have though is like natural foods and protein and whole foods versus like the protein shakes and the protein supplements. Like where does that fall into place?
Yeah, so like protein powders, you could put this into a supplement category, but this is so deeply tied to your nutrition. It's really like a food product, right? So this is how I break this down is for someone that's a vegan or vegetarian, it is going to be very challenging to hit your protein targets that your body needs to recover from cancer. That is going to be challenging. But look, you didn't become a vegetarian or a vegan because it was easy, right? So you know this life is going to be challenging and you're choosing to do that for a variety of reasons, right? It might be culturally, ethically, your body feels better. So whatever it is, okay? But if you're in that phase, then you're likely going to need to take some kind of supplement, okay? Because your options are to supplement with protein through like a plant-based protein powder, or to delay your recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, either way, and I mean, look, the best option is always to get what you need through whole foods. That's always my preference. But like, I'm also practical in the sense that life is busy. You might have really bad energy right now. So you might not be in a place where you can think a lot about your food or put a lot of effort into preparing it. You might just be so low energy. So let's just get you to good protein levels, because in 3 weeks' time, your energy is going to be better. And then you can shift more towards using whole foods once you actually feel better.
How do I figure out how much protein I actually need? Am I talking to my primary care? Am I talking to my oncologist? Do I need to see a nutritionist?
This is a bit of a sad story, right? Because look, your primary care doc, I've heard so many, and your oncologist, we put them in the same bucket there. I've heard so many stories. You're not going to get this level of help from them. Okay. Here's how I have compartmentalized this in my own brain. Okay. My oncologist, brilliant, brilliant oncologist. I loved him as a clinician. Like, we broke up, right? Because he didn't need to follow me anymore. I said, gladly, I'll break up with you. But lovely, like intellect, caring. If I asked him about food, he'd say, I have no idea. I got no idea. Because you know what? He's a very good surgeon. He's a very good oncologist. Like, I kind of get a bit like, why are we expecting our oncologist to be like everything to us, right? I really needed him to be a brilliant oncologist. I got to go find some other person to help me with this nutrition piece, right? And that's okay. I like love him for who he is. Now let me go find the next expert to build out my team. So this is where you've got to be strategic, because there's not great support out there to figure out what you specifically need. I've heard a lot of stories, and I would love to hear good stories. So don't get me wrong about this, but I've heard a lot of stories about cancer center, nutrition support, giving really general advice, like just make sure you eat all the colors of the rainbow, or like shop the perimeter of your grocery store. And the women I work with, they're like, yeah, I was already doing that before cancer. So, and I'm like, I get it. Look, like the nutrition support at your cancer center, it's meant for the general population. Women that listen to breast cancer podcasts are above average. Like, the listeners here are special. The women I work with are special. They are motivated. They care about their health. So they're not eating Big Macs every night, right? The unfortunate truth is that these people supporting the population with nutrition support, they are having to speak to people about like what would be a healthy food, like vegetables, fruit. Like, they are having those discussions. It's just that you need a higher level of support. So you're likely going to have to go the private route if you really want to get that personalized support you're looking for.
I appreciate that because, we also talk about like building. I love that you mentioned like building out your team. And so it's always about like having all these doctors in my back pocket. I'm not excited that I now see a cardio oncologist because I never thought that was going to be in my lexicon, but now I am, right? But I'm like, if I can see like a functional medicine person, if I can see a holistic person, if I can have a health coach, if I could just get these people who are cheering me on to help me reach my goal. I remember the first time I met, actually, oh, I don't even know what type of doctor it was. It was like GI, like gastrointestinal and doctor person. But she was the first person who like validated that the weight gain wasn't my fault, that there was something else going on in my body, and she was going to work with me to help me like get healthier, not lose weight, but achieve health. And that was just so validating for me. And this is how I'm like still on this like weight loss journey of like losing 30 of the 50 pounds that I gained. And it's not easy. There's like plateaus and there's ups and downs, but like the fact that I started to see improvement was like, oh gosh, like this is actually working. And, I think to your point too, and my story is very different than probably even some of our listeners, as you were mentioning, like if you're vegan or vegetarian, we're not encouraging you to just like jump off the deep end and have a steak. But for me, I realized I actually feel healthier now that I'm able to have like scrambled eggs for breakfast, or healthier that I can now have like a protein or a fish with a vegetable on my plate. And you're absolutely right that it's like boosting my energy levels in ways that I didn't, one, think I'd be full with that portion size. And then two, feeling like over time like my body craves and is like telling me, I can like listen, I have that like intuition of like, wow, I really want like a huge kale salad right now, or I really need a piece of protein because I'm feeling fatigued.
My focus is always I'm an evidence-based clinician. So I'm going to use the best available evidence to guide you. So if we're looking at vegetarian or vegan, I mean, we have the literature to show that animal-based proteins are more bioavailable to the human body versus plant-based proteins. Like, that's the science. That's not my personal opinion. Like, don't shoot the messenger, you know? But like, this is just fact, right? So, like I said, if you want to head down that vegan path, we're going to support you fully in that. But yeah, it's not going to be the same, right? Because of course it won't.
All right, so I love that we understand protein and how that can really help with all of us who are managing severe fatigue. But what other recommendations do you have? I mean, again, it can be so overwhelming to figure out what should I eat? Am I just trying to eat whatever I want just to get through life? So, how do we figure out like the nutrition piece and balancing that with just, coping? And sometimes I really just want mac and cheese and a bowl of ice cream, even though I know I should be eating like a fruit smoothie and increasing like berries and fresh fruits and flooding my system with all of those great antioxidants.
They'll say, well, my oncologist said, it doesn't really matter what I eat or just eat whatever you want. Right. And I'm like, really? Like, do you believe that about any other health condition? Like diabetes? Don't worry about it. Just eat whatever you want. Heart disease, osteoporosis. Like, what the heck? Come on. That just fundamentally doesn't make sense, right? Of course it matters what you eat. And the unfortunate part is I think like oncologists, because they don't have that understanding, that they kind of downplay the importance at times. But we just got thousands of pieces of literature, like just begging oncologists to like, please stop saying your food doesn't matter. Like, please stop. Don't say that anymore. And yes, to your point, absolutely. Like everyone's going to make whatever treatment decision is best for them. Okay. I truly believe that the women I work with, they're intelligent, they're well read, they're well researched, right? They're going to make the best choice for them. I'm going to support them in whatever they choose. Okay. You choose to go on chemo, you have a really rough time. Let's fix that. Okay. You choose to take tamoxifen, you choose not to take it. Let's make sure we lower your risk as much as possible, regardless of your path. Okay. Like this, I don't think we should fall into a camp of like conventional therapy versus traditional therapy. Like just do everything in your power that is proven to work. That means I don't pick a camp. I use both sides, right? 'Cause this is my life, so I'm gonna use whatever is proven to work, okay? So you said berries, antioxidants, so you've kind of moved up that staircase now, okay? So yeah, okay. So we talked about calories, then we talked about protein. Protein's a macronutrient. So we have 3 macronutrients. It's protein, carbohydrates, and fat. You need to be mindful of all 3. Protein gets a lot of media now, like it's a lot of press on protein. Carbohydrates got more press in like the 90s, right? And the negative side. But the take home message is that they need to be balanced, specific to you, your body, your treatment. Okay. This is a personalized treatment plan when it comes to your macronutrients. Okay. Then you mentioned berries and antioxidants. So now we're moving on to like micronutrients, right? So antioxidants, fiber. Fiber is hugely important, especially breast cancer survivors. We know we can drop your cancer risk. Then with vitamin D, we know that is proven to drop the risk of recurrence. Okay. So we need to look then, once we get the macronutrients sorted, we need to go up that staircase and look at your micronutrients. In hindsight, when I look at what I was eating as a vegan, that's where I actually realized, like when I did that inventory, how much processed food I was eating compared to the actual real food, like the fake chicken, the fake burgers, the fake, which I loved and was thought delicious, but it was not actually the healthiest choice. That makes sense. That's like the first phase of enlightenment, right? Like you became a student of your food. I think a lot of cancer survivors, maybe this isn't 100% accurate, but they want it to be, they want their food to be like easy breezy. They want their lives to be easy because that's what it was like before. It was like, it was just lighter, right? But if we want to get back to that place of ease, we've got to go deep first to figure out why there are issues. Like, where are the challenges here? What's going askew? And then correct that. And then we'll get back to the easy breezy with your food. But you've got to start by like looking at what you're eating. Because when I
Beginning,
ask,
this is like step one, like do the
yeah,
inventory.
yeah,
Mhm,
like write it down.
mhm.
Do it for 3 days.
Ugh, I'm scared to do that. Who's with me? Who's signing up to do that with me? We'll do
Tell
it
me what
together.
comes action, like what feels scary about it.
Yeah. Just well, it's the reality, it's the confrontation, right? It's like,
Uh-huh.
if you're at the office and everyone has that like candy jar, it's like, okay, I'll just take
Uh-huh.
one
Yeah.
small M&M or small like Snickers. But then you realize like, gosh, I walked up there 3 times today. Like that's not actually okay.
So you're talking like it's accountability.
Yeah.
It's accountability. And I'm not like, I mean, I'm not going to look at it, Laura, like, so it's not any external accountability, it's internal accountability.
Sure.
You're like,
Yeah.
I'm scared, I'm fearful to face what is right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's totally valid.
Yeah.
That's the first, that's the first step of change too. And
Mhm.
I don't like to say scared, like uncomfortable, I think is probably a
Better word.
better
Yeah.
description of that because you've gone through way harder things than writing down what you're eating every day. Okay. Like you
Mhm.
have done much harder things. So this is just uncomfortable. It's like facing what is.
So like you work with these amazing women who are looking to, reclaim their life, get back on track, focus on their health and wellness. Tell me like a day in the life. Like, okay, I'm Laura. I'm like freaking out because I went through all of this treatment. Like what's step one? Is it that inventory? How do we get to know each other and work together?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So first of all, you can find me anywhere on social media, but the most active places is YouTube and Instagram. And then, of course, you can find me cancerfreedomprogram.com. You can find me there. So, number one step is that is how I start with my clients is I do a 3-day inventory. 3-day is what we have literature to show that is going to be a pretty accurate reflection of your nutrition. We don't have to go longer. We don't want to go shorter. But 3 days, it's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be a good reflection of what you eat, like overall. Okay. I do a 3-day assessment. After that assessment, then I look and we use 3 different validated equations to start to determine where you should be calorie wise, where you should be macronutrient wise, and we start there. So then I say, okay, Laura, based on what I'm reviewing here, based on your side effects, this is what I want to correct right away. So it might be, you know what, we need to bump the protein in your breakfast. We need to drop the carbs in your breakfast. So try this dish for breakfast. Try this omelet. Try this smoothie. Try this whatever. Okay. Let's try to correct that week 1. And then the next week we review again and we go, okay, you corrected that. You're starting to feel better. Amazing. Now let's take it the next step. Okay. Now let's look at you have this afternoon snack. How can we optimize that for your diagnosis, your body, your goals? So that's where we really take this stepwise approach so that every week you feel better without having like this overwhelm of having to do everything all at once.
All at once. Right.
Yeah, because
So
that's
many of
all.
us are like all or nothing, right? It's like,
Yes.
and that
You
doesn't stick or last.
Yeah,
So,
you speak of type A,
mhm.
right? That's like the Cancer Freedom Program is also, I always tell them this is also like the type A recovery support group. Okay. Because we are all like that, but it's not serving you, right? I have one client that says, it's not all or nothing, it's something. No, what does she say? That doesn't make sense. It's not all or nothing, it's all or something, right?
All of something.
Uh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Because she very much had a mentality that was all or nothing. It was perfectionist, completionist, type A. And then once she wasn't getting any progress. Once we like broke down that mindset barrier, now she's down like 28 pounds, I think. She's got crazy energy. She just went on a huge family trip, like with her adult kids, and Like, it's just exactly where she wants to be when we let go of that mindset barrier.
And that works also with, like, the exercise piece. I was telling myself, like, I don't have to do 30 minutes, but if I can get on the Peloton for 20, that's a win in my book because at least, like, I got on today, right? And so it's like giving yourself that permission where it doesn't have to be perfect or whatever you set out in your head, but that you're doing something.
Think about it this way. There's a great book. It's called The Gap and the Gain. It's by Ben Harding. Um, it is a great book. It talks about uh, if you think about where you are now, okay, and what you just said, you said 30 minutes on the Peloton, okay? Like, who decided that you should do 30 minutes on the Peloton? Like, did someone like come down from the sky and like give us this, this is like arbitrary, right? Like it's a goal that Laura put on herself, okay? So what you're doing is you're saying, I'm doing let's say I went for a walk today instead of going on the Peloton, okay? But I failed because you're comparing yourself to this 30-minute Peloton metric, right? Versus compare yourself backwards. Think about Laura, 5 years ago. And think about the improvement you've made in your exercise over the past 5 years. Like, always compare yourself backwards from where you've come from instead of comparing yourself to the horizon, which is just like this arbitrary metric, right?
Yeah, and it
You're gonna be
keeps going
so much.
further and further. You're like, you're never
Right,
gonna get there.
exactly. Because once you start doing 30 minutes,
Right.
your next goal will be 45,
Yeah,
right? You'll
yeah,
just drive
absolutely.
yourself crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I start getting up earlier, the alarm clock's going off earlier, like, "Oh my god, yeah, you see where this is going."
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Ah. Well, Dr. Morris, this has been so helpful and enlightening, and I really hope by sharing some of my own personal experiences with cancer, nutrition, weight gain, side effects, fatigue, joint pain, that your recommendations are resonating with a lot of our listeners, those people who are out there navigating a diagnosis or navigating survivorship after a diagnosis. And so is there any other, like, tidbits or last pieces of golden nuggets you wanna leave with our listeners? And I'll definitely be sure to post all of your social media and your links and your websites in the show notes below so people can find you.
I have a free download that I'll send over to you. You can absolutely include that. Anyone's welcome to have it. I think it's been downloaded 40,000 times. So, absolutely, it's a great place to start if you're just feeling overwhelmed. It's got practical strategies on how to get started. I think, like, in terms of leaving like a last bit of wisdom here for you, is you really do not need to settle after cancer. You do not need, I say, new normal is a term of complacency. This is something that's pushed on women that they should just live with it, just accept it, just get used to it. Uh-uh. Because, like, think about it this way. There are women that are living their healthiest life now after cancer. If they can do it, you can do it. There's nothing like special or unique about them, right? They simply like made up their mind that they were not going to accept new normal and they headed down that path. And so it all starts with just like that mindset shift of rejecting that new normal is something that you just have to deal with.
I love that. Giving us permission to reject that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Ooh,
Oh,
okay.
powerful. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with us, sharing your wisdom, your resources, your story, the research that you are doing. This is very exciting. I hope this will be one of many more conversations, and you will definitely be one of those people I follow on social media.
Oh, thanks for having me here. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to our show. I would like to acknowledge that all of the information on our podcast is from personal experiences and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. You should always contact your medical care team. If you are looking for specific topics or would like to be a guest on our show, please feel free to reach out. My email is laura@survivingbreastcancer.org. Our show is made possible by our nonprofit, survivingbreastcancer.org, and by our incredible donors like yourself. You can hop on over to survivingbreastcancer.org to sign up for our mailing list, make a donation, and explore the 400 plus programs we offer each year at survivingbreastcancer.org/events. Until next time, keep on thriving.